Today, we're going to be talking about Vietnam bring-back guns, the dusty, papered relics that made it home in duffel bags, not crates. These aren't your average everyday guns. They're battlefield artifacts with stories in their steel. So, which wartime trophies should never ever leave your collection? Let's dive into 7 Vietnam War weapons that are only getting rarer and pricier. Number 1. Chinese SKS bringback. A run-of-the-mill Norinco SKS already has Cold War charm, yet the few rifles that returned in American duffel bags during the war feel different the moment the bolt is racked. They wear no import billboards, only the scars of jungle humidity and a folded DD-603 set of capture papers. North Vietnamese supply ran heavily on Chinese Type 56s, but a sliver of rifles rolled out of Factory 1 outside Hanoi between 1962 and 1965. Less than 6,000 bore the tiny Star 1 stamp, and US air raids probably smashed the line before it ever met quota. One of these Hanoi guns, still caked in red mud, might look like standard Chinese timber, unless you know to hunt for serials that begin with the production year. American infantrymen who stumbled across them during cash sweeps treated them as war trophies, not frontline replacements. A self-loading carbine and 7.62 by 39 already sat in every squad. Because the amnesty on trophy shipping ended in 1968, the only legal examples today are those a soldier declared before rotation stateside. The registry is closed, modern import is barred, and scrubbing an import mark ruins provenance. That funnel leaves perhaps a few hundred papered SKSs on US soil. Condition drives price, but the paperwork drives frenzy. A common $500 retail rifle turns into a $2,500 conversion piece, with Factory 1 examples nudging north of $3,500. Shipping another across the Pacific today would involve cutting the receiver, welding a new one, and surrendering the soul of the artifact. And that is why families who discover Grandpa's duffel rifle are urged not to let it leave the house. No modern Smith, no imported bullpup can buy back that serial linked to a battle map in 1966. These pieces aren't getting any cheaper. So if you're serious about collecting the rarest battlefield trophies, subscribe now and join us for the next hunt before history slips away. Number 2. Moss 36 bringback. French ordnance officers penned the Moss 36 in the shadow of the looming war with Germany, figuring a blunt 5-round bolt rifle beat a worn Lebel any day. It fought through Dunkirk, marched with Free French columns in Italy, then boarded troop ships bound for Indochina. After 1954, thousands stayed behind in Viet Minh caches when Paris pulled out. By 1965, the same rifles resurfaced in the hands of Viet Cong snipers who prized the 7.5 by 54mm cartridge for punching through sandbags that shrugged off AK fire. American Marines patrolling the Mekong Delta found bolt tracks polished slick from decades of cycling, proof that the design shrugged off mud as well as any Mauser. The Moss 36 ignores frills. It has no safety, expecting an empty chamber until the shooting starts. The wicked cruciform bayonet nestles under the barrel, forgotten until night raids in hamlets where a 10-pound spear had psychological weight. Recoil feels brisk yet controlled, closer to 308 more than 7.62 by 39, and field accuracy hovers around 3 MOA, more than enough for a jungle tree line 40 yards away. Stateside, the rifle's plain looks once kept prices low, but war provenance reverses that math. A common import stamped Moss runs $600. A GI papered specimen traced to Tet pushes $2,500, and one with matching bolt and hand-scratched Viet Cong slogans fetched $3,700 last spring. No new supply exists. France forbids military surplus exports without deactivation, and Vietnam never opened an export channel. Shipping a complete rifle now would trigger a paper labyrinth on both continents that ends with a torch to the receiver. Collectors used to chase Garands and Mausers, letting these French workhorses slip through pawnshop racks. That window has slammed shut. Each passing year means one fewer vet around to confirm the rifle's path from Dien Bien Phu to Saigon to the cargo hold of a Freedom Bird. Number 3. Tokarev TT-33 and Chinese Type 54. The Tokarev isn't sleek or forgiving, yet it earned fierce respect wherever Soviet advisors planted a flag. Chambered in 7.62 by 25mm, the pistol spits a bottlenecked slug at 1400 feet per second, fast enough to drill helmets and flimsy jungle shields. By the early 60s, Chinese factories at Norin and Jiansha were cranking out Type 54 copies for export to Hanoi. North Vietnamese officers carried them in wet leather flap holsters, and tunnel sentries favored the long-range crack that cut through foliage when an M1911 thudded unheard. American reconnaissance men sometimes yanked a toke off a captured officer for its flat profile. 8 rounds of hot steel core ammo weighs less than a loaded .45 magazine, and the pistol field strips with a rimfire cartridge. Reliability is nearly boring. The floating firing pin laughs at grit. The simple hammer group contains no fragile coil springs, and the feed lips are machined into the frame so dented magazines still run. Civilian imports, though, muddied the waters. To slide past US safety regulations, most shipped-in Type 54s wore crude frame safeties or trigger shoe contraptions. Purists loathe them, and collectors pay premiums for untouched guns. A papered Vietnam bringback with original blued finish and matching magazine commands $1,700. Add battlefield context, say a notarized affidavit that it came from the tunnel systems outside Chu Chi, and the figure glides up past $2,000. The door on fresh examples slammed shut in 1993 when the US cut off Chinese military imports. Smuggling is a felony, and demil kits lose the serial chain, so trophy pistols already in the registry are the lone pool. Number 4. Chinese Type 59 Makarov. Most Makarov pistols on the US market hail from East German or Bulgarian depots, tidy and overpolished. A Chinese Type 59 without import marks tells another story, and one capped with People's Liberation Army 8-to-1 star grips shifts the narrative into secret issue territory. Beijing never standardized the Makarov, preferring Tokarevs for decades. That means that any PLA-marked example likely belonged to a select security detachment or clandestine advisor group operating in North Vietnam. The 9x18mm round may look mild on paper, yet its straight blowback bite and massive fixed barrel give surprising accuracy inside 30 yards, perfect for shadow work and bamboo thickets. Soviet engineers designed the pistol to function after a dunk in swamp water. Chinese production kept the deep slide serrations and chrome-lined bore, ensuring it fires after sitting months in a spider-ridden weapons cache. A collector in Texas recently listed a complete rig, pistol, 2 numbered magazines, lanyard, and flap holster, documented as brought home in 1967 by a Navy corpsman. Bidding opened at $3,000 and closed above $5,000. Compare that with a police-marked Bulgarian commercial import selling for $450, and the gulf becomes obvious. Only a handful of PLA-gripped Type 59s reside in the civilian registry. Modern import is blocked by the same China arms ban that snared Type 54s, and China's own export control treats pistol frames as strategic material. Paperless examples surface occasionally, but they carry doubt like a shadow. Number 5. MAT-49. Post-war France needed a new subgun that could leap from aircraft, crawl through rice paddies, and shrug off sand. The manufacturer Nationale d'Armes de Toul delivered the MAT-49 in 1949. A brutish 9mm box built around straight-line blowback and a magazine well that folds forward for jump pack stowage. French paratroopers lugged it through Hanoi's alleyways, but the real saga began after France quit Indochina and left crates behind. Viet Minh units snatched the MAT for close quarters ambushes, loving its 600 round per minute chatter and controllable recoil. Soviet block cartridges were easier to come by, so Vietnamese armorers rechambered miniguns to 7.62 by 25mm, welding insert barrels and carving new feed ramps. Those conversions, paired with drum magazines scavenged from PPSH-41s, delivered blistering firepower that rattled American patrols and coconut groves from Da Nang to the Delta. Original French 9mm models with Indochina provenance barely exist stateside. Fewer than 100 fully transferable MAT-49s made it onto the NFA rolls before the 1986 cutoff. A bringback with capture papers commanded $28,750 in 2008. Experts pegged the current value north of $35,000, and a documented toke conversion would likely add another $5,000. Importing intact guns from France is a bureaucratic brick wall, and Vietnamese arsenals regard the few remaining examples as national heritage items. Parts kits do appear, but once welded into semi-auto shells, they lose the serial genealogy that buyers crave. Every ding on the MAT-49's parkerized surface mutters about Dien Bien Phu, urban gun battles in Algiers, and night raids in Ia Drang. That lineage, not cosmetics, propels the price. Handing one over to a dealer is like signing away a chapter of history. When a US platoon heard a burp gun, the fight was already upon them. The Soviet PPSH-41, even older cousin PPS-43, and Vietnamese-made K-50M sprayed pistol-caliber hail at 900 rounds per minute. The PPSH was designed by Georgy Shpagin for winter warfare, so it kept firing when caked in ice. Jungle mud proved no greater challenge. Drum magazines holding 71 rounds let Viet Cong sappers unleash torrents during 15-second assaults designed to overrun perimeter wire before defenders found safeties. North Vietnam reverse-engineered the gun, trimming barrel shrouds, adding a collapsing stock, and dubbing it K-50M. These lighter hybrids balanced better in dense brush and matched seamlessly with Chinese 7.62 by 25mm supply. American Special Forces occasionally adopted captured guns because logistics didn't matter on a 48-hour recon. Sheer volume of fire did. Over 6 million PPSHs were rolled out during World War II, yet fewer than 200 retained transferable status in the United States. The Soviets shipped most to client states that later melted or deactivated them. A complete papered Vietnam trophy with an authentic drum easily cracks $45,000, while a D-mill parts kit sells for $600. Importing fresh guns is impossible. The 1968 GCA and later machine gun statutes sealed that vault. So how does the PPSH handle? Well, the bolt's massive reciprocation rocks the shooter. The muzzle climbs yet stays controllable thanks to weight, and brass arcs into neat communist rainbows. Accuracy inside 50 yards is serviceable, but the weapon's real purpose was psychological, the sound and volume. That aura cannot be replicated by modern pistol-caliber carbines. Number 7. North Korean Type 58. AK-milled receivers, deep bluing, crisp Korean Hangul selector markings. The Type 58 shows what Kim Il-sung's arms plants could do before stamped AKMs took over. Built under Soviet license starting in 1958, only about 800,000 left the lines at Factory 61 and 65, a whisper compared to China's million. North Korea quietly shipped batches to Hanoi in the mid-60s, reserving them for units with political cachet. Capturing one was like lottery odds. A specialist from the 1st Cavalry stumbled onto such a fortune in March of 1966, tagging the stock A112 and shipping it stateside in pieces under the amnesty. Decades later, the rifle resurfaced fully intact, matching bolt, carrier, and even serial dust cover. The milled receiver adds heft but rewards with butter-smooth cycling and resonance that stamped clones cannot match. Chrome-lined bore, forged trunnion, and Soviet-spec beechwood furniture speak to quality North Korea never duplicated again. Today, nearly every Type 58 outside Asia lives behind glass. A fully transferable US example with veteran paperwork carries a pre-auction estimate of $45,000 to $65,000. Unpapered rifles invite federal headaches, and import is a fantasy. The receiver would have to be torch-cut, destroying originality. Rarity therefore sits at the extreme edge. Fewer than a dozen transferable Type 58s are known. Running one on the range feels like operating history's switch. Recoil impulse is smooth, muzzle rise moderate, and the cyclic rhythm rings with Cold War gravitas. Owners rarely mag dump them. Ammo may be cheap, but bolt lug wear feels sinful on a piece that no shop can replace. And that's it for our deep dive into Vietnam bring-back weapons and the legends attached to each one. Got one in your family? Tell us the story in the comments down below. And don't forget to like, share this with your fellow collectors, and subscribe for more Cold War era firearm breakdowns. Because once these rifles are gone, they don't come back.